again. Thank you so much. A very warm welcome to each and every one of you for making the time, the 1 hour Power Hour series with LifeLine Zululand. We have had international guests from New York, New Jersey, Australia, New Zealand, and we're so excited today that we have our very own homegrown Tracey Moodley that will be joining us in a few minutes. Before I begin, I want to greet you all again and welcome you. Good morning. In some places, it's good evening, good night. I really do appreciate you making the time and effort to join us. We do have people from different areas. Special welcome to Kelly Markey that has made time to join us from Australia. It's probably like 10 o'clock at night. Thank you so much, Kelly, for your time and every other guest that has made the time. Very quickly, the agenda is short and sweet, and the presentation is going to be powerful and dynamic, just as our guest speaker. Some housekeeping for today on the agenda. We will have, as usual, a slot that we call a spotlight. We will shine the spotlight on local LifeLine Zululand beneficiaries that have plowed in and come a long way since where they started. And that slot will be handled by Nompilo Mapumulu, our Deputy Director. After that, I will do the introductions for Tracey Moodley, our guest speaker. And when we're done with that, we move straight on to the question and answers if necessary. And that's our program. It's just 3 items. So, very quickly, some housekeeping rules again. Please make sure that your mic is on mute so that we give our guest speaker the respect and the honor that's required. And support is most importantly. So, you have your little button for emojis, and there you go. Make sure that you are using it to support our guest speaker and to show that you are listening in. And it gives encouragement. Raise your hands. There's our raising hands. If you have a question or a comment, and then Lungi, who's the other moderator on with Lifeline with Nompilo, she would indicate to us that we have hands up, and we would attend to you. Please feel free to use the chat box and type away comments and compliments. Don't forget to drop in your email address and your name so that when we get the recording, we can send it to you. Alternatively, the recording will be available on our Facebook page as well as our website. Once again, my name is Michelle Julal, the CEO for LifeLine Zululand. A very warm welcome, and over to Nompilo Mapumulu to shine the spotlight on our local beneficiary. Nompilo, over to you.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Spotlight today. Her name is Fezeni Tembegile Gumede. She's one of our GBV survivors who benefited in one of our program called Economic Empowerment, and she did the basic skills, which was baking. She has come a long way, all the way from Ejozini. She is doing the scones, the birthday cakes, and then now she has also become an assistant teacher in one of the schools at Ejozini. Currently, I believe that she is experiencing the technical error that Tutabo is still trying to help with. But if I can tell in terms of this program, Lifeline, as our CEO have mentioned, Lifeline provide psychosocial support to every victims of crime and violence. She was one of the ladies who took the initiative and come through in one of our site in victim-friendly room at Josini. She was a GBV victim and then in a relationship, and she was struggling. We all know in terms of GBV, she was physically abused, but then decided to take a step forward and trust Lifeline to support her and empowering her to be able to stand on her own feet. And she managed to to attend those counseling session and was identified as one of our beneficiaries that can come through and attend one of our programs and do the baking training. She took it serious and actually finished the training, got certificates, and then went back at home with her starter kit. She did not stop or lie around and feel sorry for her, but she decided to take it further and try this business. As we can see, Utavo has displayed some of the birthday cakes that she does, and then she even left the relationship that she was in, and now she's independent woman that is able to support herself. So we are very, very proud of her, and we are happy that she's no longer a GPV victim, but a survivor. So I hear that she's joining in now, and she's ready to tell us about herself. Welcome, Fezeni Tembelihle Kumete. You can continue, sis. Ungakhuluma, mama, siyabonga.
TFS in Itsembelise Kumete, you are on now.
What is this?
I was on Mona. Later, I think we presented it to me. And you are very true. It's a lot of to deliver to me. When you make it a dynamic program, then have the rule handling it and put to it's a 24. When you follow with anti-PPV, or I mean, I look for the prison to make a day, I can create a single day. No, this is a lifetime. Bangathile-ke ngoJune that year bayongifundisa ukwenza amakhekhe nokwenza amafoni. Njengamanje sengiyakwazi ukubhaka amakhekhe, ngiyazama ibhizinisi yami liyazama liyahamba nyana kufana. Bese kube yikho futhi kwabantu bendaweni yasemakhaya. Endaweni yasemakhaya vele banakho ukukhononda ngendlela abakhononda ngayo. Bafike bayokuthi amakhekhe ayabiza kanjalo but ngiyazama ukuhlangana nabanye abantu. Ngoba manje ngibale esikoleni. Isikole sabangasekhaya ngendawo ukuthi ngi-assistant. Ngike ngathi ngizama ibhizinisi lami bona ukuthi lizokhona yini ukuthi lizoqhubeka yini. Ngabhala amafoni nawaphatha ukuqala ngayo ngasikoleni ngingabadayisela andizotrali izodwa. Ayibangipikisela bafike bawatesta hayi bayawazi noma-ke ukuthi lami liyaqhubeka liyahamba njengamanje njalo usuku nosuku sengihlezi ngiwaphethe ngibadayisela. Ngibhizinisi ngala ngiyazama le ntoho engiyikuyo. Akufani ngiyaphila khona nje ngibonile i-profit ngiyayithola kuyahambela. Ebaphisela ama-birthday ngiyazama ukutuka. Yikho ukuthi izasindayo endaweni esikuyo. Izimpela kunzima ukuyithola namalokhu uzalutho. I-challenge engiyayibhekane nayo ukuthi i-material yokubhaka iyabiza itholakala kalula la ithola khona kubanzima. Nanokuthi-ke edolobheni lethu ejozini kukude masuka la emadolobheni ejozini. Kusithatha imali kuyimali enkulu phela nje so okwamanje ngakho ukuthi ngiyidayisele endaweni.
Tabo, please assist. They seem to be mute at the moment.
Okay, you can continue, Mom Kumete.
Thank you.
Manje-ke inseleleko indawo kakhulu ukuthi vele ngoba sengiyimele njengamanje ngizamile ukuthi ngihlanganise amandla ayabi khona kahle. Ngazama ukuthola isitofu manje isitofu engisebenzisayo sincane angikwazi ukwenza kahle izinto Olaba ke ngikwazi kodwa amakhulu engenza vele ngizengabe ngizofika ashuka ngenza bakhe vele usukulethu kuncane isikhathi sokuthi ngoba ngisho esikoleni nje sekumele usukulokho ungakhoni kwenza lokho ngiphinde ngizomasa kungasekhaya isikhathi esithi so ngistop isayithale okwamanje kakhulu sana challenge stop angakwazi nokwenza ama-design amahle lawa amanye amafokhona kanjalo ngakwazi ukwenza o-round kuphela nginestop esincane kodwa ngiyathemba ukuthi ngoba ukuthi yami liqhubeke ngiyathemba ukuthi kuzolunga izohlangana ngizokhona ukwenza i-right ngiyithole ngifane ukubonga kakhulu ngoba hayi okwami mengibuka isikhathi engisuka khona ngoba namanje ngiyabona ukuthi ukuba ku-lifeline mhlawumbe kuba ngekho kodwa ngosizo engitholile ngiyabona ukuthi hayi sengiphumelele sengi-right sengingakwazi ukuthi ngingazi ukusiza nabanye ngamakhono ukuthi babone ukuthi
Siyabonga kakhulu Thembelihle, siyabonga kakhulu i-testimony yakho siyaziqhenya ngawe. If I can summarize, before I can summarize, I see Mphathi, your hand.
I was going to ask you to help us to just unpack from the vernacular to English, if you want, a little bit, please.
Thank you, Mphathi. Just to summarize for her in terms of for our own, all of us understanding, she said she's Thembelihle from Ejozini. Ejozini is far out when you go close to the border towards Upongolo. And then she said that she was once a GBV victim, and then she reached out to Lifeline for assistance in terms of becoming a survivor, and then she received numerous support which she's grateful for. She's been she was taken to the training in Richards Bay to do the baking and post that living with the victim, with the perpetrator, and then she came in to do the training. After that, she went home and started her business. She said that she was able to sell because the scones are much cheaper and the community can afford it. Where she resides, she mentioned that it's in rural areas. Some people don't have money, so she took an initiative to go to the schools and sell the scones. And then it was then where she found out that there was post opening for assistant teachers, and then she applied for those posts. After that, she got a job. She never stopped selling the scones. She still makes them and do them, the birthday cakes, as we all have seen. However, she mentioned that there is no business that is without challenges. So she said that she will in town, but where she's at, she's far out of town in terms of Ijozini, because she's living in a rural area called Madonela. So it's to reach town on daily basis, but she's not giving up and she's gonna continue. She also mentioned that she has left her relationship and now she's able to stand to support herself and stand in her own feet without having to rely on the perpetrator. She's very, very grateful and humble and appreciate all the support that she has received from LifeLine Zululand. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. We have few comments here from Utemba Mkunu. Amazing work, sis, well done. And we also have a comment from Ukeli. The cakes looks delicious. And Nolan, absolutely amazing cake. Creations, wow. And from Michelle Jula, wow, it's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think really a huge round of applause to the young lady for taking that step, bold, and not just doing one thing. She started with such baby steps. And if we look through all the series that we've been through for these past few weeks, everything is about taking baby steps and everything is about moving forward and not staying stagnant. And from the humble scone, it brought her to the opportunity of being in the school. And from there, she just blossomed into doing these fabulous birthday cakes. And we know very well in our deep rural areas, it's such an effort to take a transport or hire a taxi to go to town to get a cake, get it made, travel all the way back, and you might land up with half the cake. You don't know. And this young lady is really doing her best to serve her communities with the talents that she has. And I'm so proud of her. On behalf of everybody, well done again, my dear. We are extremely proud of you. And thanks, Nopilo, for that translation as well. We can move on now to our main guest speaker, which is Tracey Moodley, a dynamic dynamite. And they do say dynamites come in small packages. It's actually very true. Tracy is one of these young upcoming individuals. I met Tracy a few years ago, and she's helped Lifeline to grow in terms of the space of our social media. And she stepped in at the time where we really needed support and assistance. So we are grateful for that. But in terms of Tracy, who is she and what she stands for? She's got a few snippets, and she's multi-talented in the sense that anything that she does, she goes for it 110%. Whether she's racing a car or she's in the Cape tasting wine, whichever way you look at it, Tracy goes all in with all heart. And she says a few interesting snippets, and I've shared that on Facebook, and I want to share it with you. And she says whether you're building a relationship with a customer or buying a product or a client leaning on your services, relationships are the winning factor to success. So not just business, but relationships are a winning factor. You can have a friend that you would call probably once in 2 months, but the relationship is still there, it's intact. And then, Tracy was not always going to do this business of PR. And I'm not going to say too much, and she can share with you how she landed up with this and how she connects brands and people. And one very interesting quote from Tracy, which I lifted from one of the local write ups, and she says, and I quote, I've always believed that stories are the most powerful way to create change. Whether it's helping a company speak to its staff with empathy or building a brand presence, I want to help people communicate with purpose. And with that being said, I want us to give a warm welcome to Tracy, who's going to take us into her story. Welcome, Tracy, and thank you for your time. I know you're a busy woman jetting all over the country and doing amazing things. We are so glad that you are here just to give us your time. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I see there are ladies and gentlemen here. So, gentlemen, you are most welcome to celebrate with us this ending of the fabulous Women's Month Power Hour series. Yeah, so thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. The fact that you're here on a Friday afternoon, taking the time to listen to me, is honestly an absolute pleasure. And I think just also closing off this Power Hour series with Lifeline Zululand brings a full circle moment for me. And as mentioned by Michelle, Lifeline kind of happened to me when I just started my business, and they gave me a platform and opportunity to help them, which was so amazing. So thank you. So obviously when Michelle initially said, Tracey, please join us, it was an immediate yes, an absolute yes. So thank you, Michelle. And before I could actually even go into anything, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge Michelle and her amazing team from LifeLine Zululand. The work that you guys do is filled with so much of passion, so much resilience, so much of strength. And in everything that you guys do, no matter how tough and difficult it is, you find ways to make it work and you find ways to still make an impact within the community. So thank you so much for that. So where do I begin? I think initially to be honest, I had no idea what to speak about today, only because Michelle being Michelle said, you have carte blanche, you can literally talk about anything. And honestly, there's so much to talk about when it comes to women or in Women's Month. I mean, you think about work-life balance, being a single mom, the mental health, emotional stability. There's so much that you can actually talk about. So it was very difficult for me to find a topic that I can speak about today. And believe it or not, the topic came to me in the shower yesterday morning. And I promise you, it's not that I leave everything for the last minute, but my mind, being a creative, these things come to me in the oddest hours, in the weirdest places. And for me, it was in the shower. So the word that came and there was led to speak about today was seasons. And I felt it was so right. And I felt that this is the perfect moment to speak about different seasons as a woman and how do you go through the different seasons in life. And I think it was also so fitting because right now in SA, we are moving from winter to spring. Um, so yeah, I think specifically when it comes to seasons, it's so much like life, and some are gentle, some are brutal, and it doesn't look the same for everyone. For example, here in Richards Bay, where I am, we experience summer all year round. And you drive 3 hours outside of Richards Bay to the Midlands, and then winter bites. But similarly to life, seasons are never identical for all of us, and they're not permanent. They do pass and they do change. A season is shaped by who you are, where you are, and very importantly, what you're carrying. What feels like summer to someone might feel like winter to the next. But maybe that is the most important life lesson. Our seasons are lived differently, but they all matter. So I thought I'd share my story today. And what is quite important to note is that I write a lot. And for me, this is being pushed out of my comfort zone to actually share my story. And we all have so many stories to share. And I hope mine resonates with you. And I hope there are some few golden nuggets that you can actually take away from today. And I thought the perfect way to actually share my story is through the different seasons that I've journeyed through in my life. And of course, I start my journey in a very cold winter. I was 17 years old and we lived in the most beautiful Dutch house in a little town outside of Richards Bay called Kwambanambi. It was an absolute dream of a house and a home actually, and I wish that I appreciated it more then than I do now in reflection. We had a beautiful corridor with massive windows that shone the most beautiful light in on a summer's day, a spring morning. But what I do remember and still haunts me to this day is the echo of our landline at 2 a.m. in the morning. And at the end of that call was my sister's voice. And that was the beginning of my cold winter and a new season. At 17, I had lost my dad. And overnight, I had become my mother's crutch. And also, I had to grow up very quickly and carry responsibilities that honestly I should not have carried, or the trauma at 17. That was the beginning of a lifelong journey of grief for me. But it was also a beginning of me stirring up something within myself: growth, resilience, strength, and most importantly, independence. You see, death often ushers in something so different. It makes you see life with a new set of eyes. And it can often break you down, but when it does break you down, it can also build you up. And that is your choice. You build up yourself for a better version of yourself or something that's worse. But I know that grief doesn't really just come through death, people experience grief through divorce, through a loss of job, through financial ruin. And it's basically anything that has been stripped away from you that you care about. I didn't know then what I know now, but in between all of this subconsciously, I was teaching myself how to carry grief. And I anchored myself in my faith, my spirituality. I grew closer to God, and I poured my heart out into creativity and journaling. And in even through that season of grief, and that's a beautiful thing about seasons, that you can also experience different seasons in the same season. I had found love, and I'd found the love of my life, not knowing that that love would eventually turn me into another bitter winter. But I move on quickly to a summer, and oh my word, the summer was so beautiful. At 21, I closed my eyes and I was standing at an airport taking my first flight at 21. Yes, I took my first flight at 21. And I stood at the boarding gates with my eyes closed, said a little prayer because as a PR and communications graduate of 21, I was ready to land my first job. And little did I know that I was going to land my first job in PR and comms. And boy, oh boy, did I do just that. It was a Monday. I went for the interview, landed the job, started working on a Wednesday. One bag, one dream. And that season was so beautiful. It was a typical summer, if you could think about a summer. The warmth on your skin, the ocean breeze, late sunsets. It was magnificent. My career started unfolding, my love for PR and communications, which, by the way, happened to me because I always wanted to go into journalism or writing. My dream was to work in a magazine, but I'm so grateful for how my path had changed and the reroutes that happened to me to land me in this position I am today. I reinvented myself in the big city, as one does. And I was a shy farm girl that came out of a shell and quickly became someone that could stand on her own. I learned grit, tenacity, and resilience. And I learned not to take life personally because we all know that life can knock you down, but you must always rise and you always move forward. But even in that summer, I had experienced and tasted autumn because far away from my family and coming from a really close-knit family with a small circle, loneliness often visited me and knocked on my door. So then my seasons somehow overlapped. But through all of this, what I really learned, and there's some few key takeaways, is take accountability for your life, create your own opportunities, knock on the door. If no one opens, then move on to the next. And if that door doesn't open, find a window. Work on yourself daily, develop a growth mindset. Keep learning every single day, something new. Build grit, because that will carry you on the hardest days, dealing with the most difficult people. Cultivate an unbreakable spirit because life, as I said before, will break you, but you get to decide how you rise. And try and have a balance. And I know that it sounds impossible to have a balance because it is somehow impossible. But the more you focus on one thing, the more you neglect the other. And burnout is so real. I've tasted burnout several times in my journey. But often on a Monday, what I do is I have a coffee sit down with myself. And it's a time where I clear my schedule in the Monday morning, a specific time, and I have coffee just with myself. Sounds a bit weird, but actually it's so good and it helps me get through my week. And I often reflect on a few things, what I've been exposed to, what I've listened or heard within the course of the week. And something that came up recently was hustle culture and how society has made hustle culture such an unhealthy environment for us to thrive in, especially as women who get to wear so many hats. Working late hours, smashing goals, it sounds so good when you're building your empire, but at what price and at what cost? Your health, your emotional health, your mental health, your physical health. So I honestly do believe that in between all the madness of the world and the hustle and bustle and trying to build something you've always dreamed of, always find or seek stillness because it will guide you like a lighthouse. And I know I'm moving on, and I hope I'm not, it doesn't sound like I'm rambling, but it's just going with the flow of my seasons. I find myself in another winter because life will guarantee you winters only in the real life and not just the beautiful nature season. It never tells you when it will arrive. And I found myself at 27, and this winter hit harder than ever. I remember pushing through a crowd and walking towards a car wreck in a quite residential area, and there was the love of my life, lifeless. And at that point and that moment, the cold of that season and that winter gripped me in my bones. And I thought that I would carry this pain within my soul and my body of that chill from the winter for the rest of my life. Because that season was so brutal. Here, I wasn't just grieving alone like I did in my first winter. Here, I was grieving with two babies that had no clue what was happening. An 8-year-old and a 2-year-old. Sorry, 8-month-old and a 2-year-old. And at that point, if I thought life was crazy, I had quit my job, I think only 3 months prior to all of this, with my dream of starting my own business because I believe in creating my own opportunities. And my business had barely taken off. And now I was here, crushed under grief, motherhood, and financial strain. But if anything, my other seasons taught me was resilience, was strength, was grit. So on my worst days, I remembered the most important things. Sit with your grief, feel it, move through it, but always remember to not get drowned in it and come up for air. Talk about it. And I think that for me was something I didn't know or even think about in my previous winter. Therapy helped me during my first year of grief in this season. I had gone to therapy for a year. I went deep into journaling. I have so many memoirs that I've written. Well, actually, one memoir, but a lot of the information that, just dealing with grief was in my notes. And if anything happens to me, I'm probably going to give my notes as in my will and have conversations because I do believe words heal. The moment you see something, you feel it, you embrace it, and you move on. Find your why. And for me, that was so simple. It was my kids. They gave me a reason to keep going, keep moving. And I know a lot of the times when it comes to death, you would think, move on. Or it's not about moving on, it's about moving forward. Lean into your creativity, and I can't express how much this has helped me. And I think there's a misconception when it comes to creativity. It doesn't necessarily mean painting or some form of art, if I could say put it in that way. But writing on its own was such a beautiful outlet for me, music, and in fact so much that I created a digital journal on my Instagram. So if you do want to follow me, where I wrote for 365 days straight about what I'd felt during that specific season of my life. And I had grown my online community with people that resonate with me, that still send me messages to the day, have followed my entire journey, and sometimes just comment about my growth and everything I've been through to date. I think the most important thing as well is anchoring yourself in a greater source, and that is your faith, God, meditation. Drawing strength for something that is beyond yourself is so important because as an individual, you can never carry everything on your own. Accept that grief is lifelong, and I think a lifelong friend, not an enemy, because it doesn't disappear. There will always be triggers, and it will always put you in the front row of that funeral or one of those terrible things that has happened to you in life. But if you look at grief as a friend, if you look at grief as something as a reminder how much you loved someone, it changes your perspective. And lastly, specifically, a learning within that season was to rebuild. I think that's such an extraordinary thing about humans, that we have the potential to rebuild. It's something that we've been given innately by God. It's to build brick by brick, day by day, and just restart. I think it's such a beautiful thing to actually restart and rebuild, especially when you're going through whatever season in life. So if you ask me what season I am in right now, I think the obvious answer is spring for anyone that has followed my journey. I smell it in the blooms. I see it in the sky when I look at the birds. And yes, I notice every single thing because I'm in my season of noticing the little things. My once tiny business that started off just running social media accounts for various small businesses has now landed me the opportunity to assist bigger corporates with internal communications, external communications. Everyone are woven in the fabric of my journey. My children are now 8 and 10 and are thriving. And I'm not saying that it's easy being a single mom. In fact, we experience monsoon season more often than ever. But when I look back and reflect, all I can see is I have so much of gratitude. And gratitude has been something that has transformed my life. When you go through something and still find gratitude in whatever you're doing, it transforms your thinking and it takes you out from a position that of being stuck. As a woman, we carry an extraordinary gift and we have the power to nurture, to bring life, to sustain. I think it's so amazing that as mothers, we can bring nourishment to our babies without even telling our bodies what ingredients to add to the milk or what temperature it needs to be. The fact that we can sustain our kids is divine. That power doesn't just exist in motherhood, though. It's in every season we face. But the real question is, are we tapping into it no matter what season we're in? So be open in whichever season you're in because it's important to surrender to the unbecoming of who you were, the past version of yourself. Pay attention to the signs, which I just mentioned earlier. It sometimes comes to me as a whisper nudging me, guiding me. It's an internal intuition as a woman that I lean into. And I hope that you would also lean into that because that is our divine. I was also going to end this with one of my favorite authors, a quote from my favorite authors, and that is Oriah Mountain Dreamer. She has changed my entire perspective of life, and I've read all three books. But I said, why not actually end with something that I wrote? So I'm going to end with a little something that I wrote. We go through many endings, sometimes quietly, unknowingly, or perhaps abruptly, painfully. A necessary ache that clears the way for a sacred newness. Even when it feels like everything is over, we all go through it in every season of our lives. But the end is never truly the end, like in a childhood story. The end, though. There's no full stop after the end in this season or in this life, only a pause to usher in a new beginning, a new season. An end to a chapter is not an end to the story. I've embraced the cycle of endings and seasons so many times in my life, and with each season, I have surrendered and made space for a newer version of myself, a little more resilient, a little more gentle. I'm still working on that, and a little more open to what the universe holds. An awakening sometimes comes with endings. It's about being graceful enough to embrace it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow. I just need to exhale a bit. It's been amazing. It's been amazing. And thank you so much for sharing um, your seasons. And I love that you pitched it on seasons. It makes it more comfortable. The topic is so heavy, heavy with emotions, heavy with trauma, heavy with all sorts of baggage, if you want to call it.
Mm,
But yet, listening to you has given it such a refreshing and renewed, if I can say, purpose
mm,
to look at grief differently. Like you said, it's it's a friend. So it has a purpose, and we got to find that purpose and find the why. And don't stay stagnant. It just means moving forward. You cannot
mm,
erase the grief. It's going to stay with us, and we're going to get these winters and these autumns every now and again, and embracing them differently. And I love what you said. The end is only the beginning of something else that's
mm,
coming. And while something is ending, that trajectory that you're on, that journey, is preparing you for the beginning of the next thing.
mm,
And my hats off to you and a 2 month old baby and an 8 month old baby leaving the job, and you sit there and think, this is the end of me.
Mm.
And you didn't. And that is so inspiring. I think I have a lack of words. But everybody
Thank you,
else,
Mish.
you are welcome to please raise your hand and indicate, do you want to comment? Do you want to say something? Do you want to engage with Tracy? Please feel free. So, there's so many nuggets that you've given us from having the grit and the resilience. And I also like about creativity. Creativity doesn't mean painting. You could be a crazy dancer in the house, dancing
Mm.
with your broom in your hand or your mop or whatever. It's the creativity. So you got to release that, find
Yeah.
that release, and you've done that and packaged that so beautifully. So this session that we've done, you need to do more of this because
Thank you, Michelle.
it's a journey that people sort of sweep under the carpet and don't want to embrace the journey of winter. And yet winter gives birth to so many things.
Mm.
Um, it gives birth to a new you, in fact, a new journey.
100%.
There's so many things that can come of this. And I don't want to hog the limelight and keep talking to you. I'm just so excited and I'm still absorbing all of this. Is there anybody else that would like to come in and share something
Yes, and Patsy, we've got a few comments from our chat box, and I noticed a hand from Kelly. Can I just read the comments, Kelly, before you go through? We've got a comment from Joanne. Your journey is powerful, and I know your story has touched so many hearts. Keep shining, sis. You are an absolute gem. And then we've got also a message from Nolan. You've been through very tough seasons, but you've made it. Well done. God is amazing. Lovely analogy of life to the season. We also got a message from Michelle. Thank you, Tracy. Wow, this is so special. Our biggest inspiration from Joanne and Michelle again, seasons of gratitude. Thank you. You can go on, Kelly.
Thank you. Wow, Tracy, I haven't met you, but I feel like I know you, and we've been joined by the hip. So I just want to say I salute you, and I see you, and I am you. And I was in tears just listening to you. And before I got on, I was actually journaling. I lost my brother to suicide, and I keep going through the seasons. And I never thought it would be possible to get rid of the layers. But listening
Mhm.
to you and seeing you just smile on the screen gives me hope. And I'm so grateful that I tuned in today and you showed me that, we all go through life. We are born and we never get handed a 101 on how you need to manage grief. Nobody tells us, and
Mm.
we are not ready for it, but it just lands on our lap. And we have to pick the pieces up and mosaic our life. And you've done just that. You've created a beautiful mosaic out of grief, and I salute you. Thank you. And you've
Thank
given me inspiration.
thank you so much, Kelly. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Is there anybody else that would like to engage with Tracy? Please feel free. So, Tracy, when are you packaging this in a book? The Seasons of My Life.
I told
It's long
you, well,
overdue.
yeah, listen, we've had this conversation for years now, and I think I've written a chapter, but it was
Well, this
not
is the
based
whole
off
book. I can
this.
see 86 pages already from
Yeah.
what you've spoken about, and it's definitely something that it's not something that you would want to promote, but it's what everybody needs.
Mm,
It's that little something that you can't do without. And
mm,
hearing you speak about grit and perseverance, those are not just words that you were using loosely. It's the
Mm.
experience that you've lived, and you are the living proof that you can do it, no matter how low you feel that you are in whichever season. And like you've mentioned, you can have a season within a season, and
Mm.
that could be like a conundrum. You don't know whether you're coming or going. But as long as you keep moving forward, that's something that we all have to take away. Excuse me. One other important thing people talk about, and I like to comment about, is balance. I mean, everybody talks about having balance, but we don't get it right. And I'm happy that you've said you have your monsoon season almost offered at your house.
Yeah,
And that's real.
without
And that's
fail.
real people. That's real. And this is what we want everyone to hear. You have a house, it's got toys scattered all over. It's not a show house. You have
Mm.
living people in the house. There's lives. So you're not going to tidy up your place because somebody said they're popping in. No, you're living, and you're going to be
Mm.
continuing in that way because this is your lived experience. So you
Yeah.
would choose and make the choices that need to be made. What is the choice that I want to make? How do I want to attack, or persevere, or push forward?
Mm.
And what sits with me is, if this place that you talk about, the doors, knocking on the doors, knocking at 10 doors, 5 doors, and if you don't find a door, you're going to find a window. Well, I'm just going to push it and say, I'm even going to find an air vent, or even probably underneath the door, because that is the takeaway that we need to have.
Mm.
We need to find that little glimmer of light that comes
Of hope.
through. Yes,
Mm.
and you've lived that. And what you've done is you've brought that forward. And I'm going to say this again. When is that book, Seasons of My Life, coming out?
You will read the transcript, Mish.
We have this on the recording, so it's going to be a launching pad
No,
for that,
absolutely.
I mean, you can enjoy so many beautiful seasons, but one season I want you to talk about, which maybe you didn't, um, and I would like to end there. You said your kids are 8 and 10. What was that season where you had your kids? What season was
Mm.
that? You had two kids, and you didn't mention those seasons. Then I'm sure it must be a season that was just beyond delightful. So if you'd like to just share with us about that season, holding
I,
this baby.
I think it was a mix of all seasons because kids bring so much of joy into your life. But beyond joy, there's so much as being a single mom. There is no blueprint for it. There
Yeah.
is no one to tell you how to be, and you can't be a perfect parent, especially when you have so much going on around you. You're dealing with trauma, you still trying to be present for your kids, you're trying to build your business, you're still trying to show up for your family. So I think it was a mixture of everything. There were days where it was really dark, but I think the support of my family has always been a pillar of strength for me. And the fact that I had my family around with my kids to help me through the darkest days. And I think I still get it to this day. My daughter is 8 going 9 and my son is 10. And sometimes I still don't know what I'm doing, but they do help me along the way. They tell me sometimes what I need to do. Um, but yeah, I think just having a good support system and not being too hard on yourself as a parent, because what happens is that we try to do too much of everything. And what is not within your control is not within your control. So I think for me, the most important thing is understanding that not everything is within your control and only handling what you can. Don't take on too much. It's okay. There's a tomorrow, there's a new day. If you can't get through it today, try tomorrow. So yeah, it's a mixture of all the seasons, winter, summer, spring, autumn, fun and games on the side.
Yeah, yeah. You're reminding me of a saying. We always say practice makes perfect, right?
Mm.
And if practice makes perfect, and then there's another contradictory saying, life is not perfect. So what's the point in practicing? So we just got to do what we got to do.
Yeah,
And the practice, well, we got to see how it turns out in the end.
yeah.
So, taking from everything that you've said, Tracy, I really want to congratulate you on being a beacon of hope that Kelly has written on here. Beacon of hope for sure. You need an award, sister. And I agree because your voice is the voice of the voiceless.
Mm,
And many are sitting in dark corners, under covers, and not knowing what to do, and not understanding that asking for help, reaching out for help, it's okay.
mm,
And therapy is okay.
mm,
And journaling and doing things to cope, it's okay to do that. And
mm.
you don't need to look over your shoulder consistently to see who's watching and what they're going to say about that. Because your healing journey, and you said that beautifully, is different from somebody else's because your summer, it might be somebody else's winter.
Yeah.
We don't know that. And yet we go along life often. I know I'm also guilty sometimes. We judge. We always like to judge. We human beings. We judge and say, oh, look at that. But we don't know the backstory. And
Mm.
what you present, like Kelly said, you present a smile, this beautiful, picturesque person on the screen. And deep down inside, there's a whole toolbox of information just waiting to be let loose and build different things around her. On that note, if there's nobody else that want to comment or say anything, I would like to express our gratitude and our thanks on behalf of Lifeline Zululand, the board members, our employees, the staff, the team, our beneficiaries, the ladies that you've heard, our GBV survivors, and anybody else in our program. A really, really heartfelt thank you to you for your time. You've really given us an eye opener. We in the psychosocial space, but it's so refreshing, Tracy. It's so refreshing for us to come and listen to what you have packaged, the way you perceive the world, and it opens
Mm.
us to even better and more advanced way of thinking. And really, our heartfelt thanks to you for that. Thank you so much. And yes, good luck with all your ventures and your business. If ever you need something, Lifeline is a phone call away. Um, but yeah, good luck and thank you so much again. Thank you everyone for your time. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your efforts. The tech team, the moderators, Nompilo for organizing, the office team. This sums up our series and we're summing up in such grand style. Really. 10 out of 10 to each and
Thank you,
every one of
Mish.
you, especially to you, Tracy, for wrapping this up in such grand style. People would expect a motivational speech to run in a different direction. And this ran in a different direction for sure.